right, good evening and welcome to the November 10th Los Angeles City Health Commission meeting. It's so nice to see folks. I know has it been longer than a month since the last time we saw each other? Feels like it. Feels like it's been longer than a month, but happy to see everyone, happy to have quorum, and looking forward to today's presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rita and we can do a roll call.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair. Commissioner Avila,
Present.
Commissioner Cohen is absent. Commissioner Kata,
Present.
Commissioner Kalfani,
Present.
Commissioner Lemus is absent. Commissioner Mandel,
Present.
Commissioner Osi,
Present.
Commissioner Shannon.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Now we will transition to the approval of minutes. Before we make the approval, I just want to make one comment. My name is spelled wrong, so I just want to acknowledge the misspelling of my name. But other than that, hopefully folks have been able to review the minutes. And if I can get a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Did you get that, Rita?
Yes.
Any discussion? Seeing none, can we take a full vote to approve?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Thank you. So I am going to assume there is no one here from the neighborhood council because I don't see anyone in attendance. Nor do I see anybody here for public comment. So with that, I'm going to move us to presentations. Our first presentation will be by Eric Morgan, who is the Emergency Management Coordinator, Emergency Management Department. I'll let you introduce yourself and then you can start your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Morgan. I'm a relatively new member of the city family. I came from the maritime industry at the port complex, working for a tugboat concern. But I used the opportunity during the days of COVID. It coincided with my interest in going back to school. So I went to the graduate school program at Cal State Long Beach in Emergency Services Administration. And so that kind of led me on a path of my passion I could follow in the later years of what time I have left. So what I do, I get a lot of pleasure out of, and just at public safety events, I used to sit on the other side of the table taking in information how to be more prepared. And now I'm blessed to be able to sit on this side and be able to help people raise their emergency preparedness level, and no matter what walk of life you're in. So that's a little bit of my story, and I'm sticking to it. And so this is the key part of my path, my transition, doing volunteer work for groups like the Red Cross. This is the Disaster Communication Service. When I worked on tugboats, I use a lot of radio communications. So that was my way in. I got a passion for ham radio. So I was able to get an amateur radio license. And then I met at public safety fairs folks from the LA Sheriff's Department Emergency Communications Group. So that when I eventually got led on the path towards emergency management, I'm able to pass on those radio skills through the mechanism of the Auxiliary Communication Service. They're the members that are supported under the umbrella of the Fire Department of LA, and they operate out of our Emergency Operations Center. And so this is a picture for those who haven't been able to visit our Emergency Management Department building. We're just down the street on Temple. We have a dedicated building, and this is the centerpiece of where we do our work if called upon by the mayor's office. We would activate this here Emergency Operations Center. It's a 96 seat, 17 or 16 pod structure dedicated for the coordination of the overall response, whether it is planned or unplanned. So, for example, we have a coming bit of rain, and so the numbers aren't necessarily worrisome, but we do have burn scars from the January fires that are concerned. So we will be activated on an A and B watch, and we will work out of that Emergency Operations Center. We'll call in the relevant partners of the agencies that we need to coordinate with. Some are stalwarts like the LA Fire Department and the LAPD, Street Services. Those are the names that you'll see if you went to an activation. But we also bring whoever is needed. Over the summer, we had the DWP water outage, so they were the lead agency. So if this Emergency Operations Center can expand or contract based on what type of event is. And sometimes for good planned events too. We were able to celebrate the Dodgers parade, and so that involved coordination with the Street Services, Department of Transportation for their ADSAC network of cameras. And so we do have we have some creativity and liberty to match the moment. And so a lot of what we do, we follow the emergency management cycle. It's 4 main components to that. Currently, if we were to use the January wildfires as an example, we are currently in a long-term recovery. But if you asked us on January 7th this year, we will be in the immediate response to that. And before the fires, we hope that we were helping people become more prepared. And so you can see it FERS, it's a constant cycle. We're always at some stage. Luckily, we're more into the long-term recovery, but mitigations where we do our blue sky work, planning, exercising with our partners, and education are just some of the key things that we do to try to build up everyone's level of preparedness. And that is to match the dynamic landscape that the Los Angeles region exists in. Now more so than ever, it's no secret that climate change has kind of accelerated the change and the intensity of the events. And we are exposed to all these events, but it's mainly for our planning exercises. We still our go-to is an earthquake scenario because that has like a wide-ranging impact on our area. And incidentally, that magenta color, that was intentional because when we did get word from the National Weather Service of how dire the forecast was for the winds, it used to be red, we associate that with the most severe, but now we have magenta. So if you were to see that color, that bears your full attention. So that's why I changed that. And so I spoke with that a little earlier. It's natural, human cause. We are a densely populated area, so we are prone to transportation accidents. We have out of the port complex, so a real robust train transport system. So collectively, everything's becoming more interconnected, therefore more independent, and any part of that network goes awry, it could have wide-ranging impacts. And I allude to that in the interruption of critical infrastructure. And this is not the prettiest graphic, but it tells a story of how the 16 critical infrastructures from banking, transportation, medical, information technology, incident of significant magnitude will use an earthquake. It would have wide-ranging impacts across multiple infrastructure sectors. And so we also study cyber attacks, mostly a man-induced event. And so if you lose banking, you can lose sensors to control our electrical power or communications. And so it's not unreasonable to think that one incident can affect many facets of our individual and collective lives. But as I mentioned, yeah, the number one disaster is earthquakes with destruction and loss of life for the Los Angeles area. Last year was a significant year. It was a 30-year anniversary for the 94 Northridge earthquake. And so even though the magnitude is not as severe as the big one that we are periodically told of to be in preparation for, that localized, that was a severe earthquake. I'm sure if we use Kevin Bacon's, you're 6 people away from knowing someone, I would venture to say that within this room that we know someone who knows someone, and that was adversely impacted by that earthquake. So last year was a 30-year anniversary, but over the years, this area has known significant earthquakes. And here's just a graphic showing the different types of basic critical services for our day-to-day lives that could be impacted by that. I'll show you a slide where the San Andreas Fault runs from the Salton Sea in the extreme south of California and works its way almost 800 miles north. And so our pipeline, the California Aqueduct, runs across the San Andreas Fault. And so when we think about these things, we start thinking about how can we prepare ourselves in the event of something that could cause loss of our most basic services. So again, this is the graphic of the fault, but as we all know, there's a whole series of faults that run under us or by us. I know in the Palos Verdes area, you have the Newport Inglewood Fault that is something to be mindful of. But when we do our exercises, our trainings, we use this 7.8 scenario as for our planning. And here's some resources on the big one. I'll be sharing these slides, and these are all linked to resources, videos to show graphically what that a rupture along that fault would look like. And it could occur anywhere along that fault. And after shocks of, it's not unheard of. If we talk about the 2019 earthquake in the Ridgecrest area, the aftershock was almost as strong as the initial quake. So that is not unheard of. So when we start thinking we're out of the woods, we survived a big one, you do have to be mindful of earthquakes for however long the geologists can determine. But it's usually not a one-off if it's an earthquake of that significance. So yeah, there is damage associated. The USGS or United States Geologic Service, seen from past case studies as well as anticipation of what we would find if that earthquake were to occur. in our region. This would result in people having to live outside of their homes, their residences, fires that would immediately occur in the aftermath of an earthquake due to ruptured gas lines. Our transportation infrastructure would be adversely impacted too, and we would see why we're in this region where we're almost trapped by the mountainous ranges that are on the outer perimeter of our city. Oh, I don't know, so. But yeah, these are the fires that we speak of. I think we're at 3,300 sworn firefighters in our fair city, and they have to cover an area of almost 470 square miles. So they're going to be looking to immediately address life safety issues, and that includes fires. And they know that in that first few minutes, they want to fight fires while they're small fires before they turn into big fires. So that's why we have to start thinking, how can we fill the gap and be our own source of help in the initial aftermath of an earthquake. So history also tells us, particularly the Northridge earthquake, water service was disrupted. Even if their water was working, if the water treatment plants start to become non-operational, we get backflows. So the water that runs out of our tap can be suddenly unsafe to drink, and people have to get really resourceful, particularly if road infrastructure is lost. So here, these are just pictures of what people have done to get that sustenance of fresh water. That lower right graphic shows that the science of storing water. There is good news on that front where companies specialize in safely storing water for 5-10 years and even beyond that. So it does help with us in our preparation not to have to constantly rotate our stock of water. In two areas of the city of Los Angeles, the port complex, Port LA sharing with Long Beach, as well as up in the Venice, Marina del Rey area, are two areas that have the most exposure to tsunamis. This summer, we had a tsunami from a large earthquake in the Kamchatka region of Russia. And so there was a lot of concern about what that meant for our port complex as well as our marinas within the city. Here is a graphic showing a resource where people that live within those vulnerable areas, where their evacuation routes would look like. We're getting a lot more interest from areas like CD 15 and 11 about what their evacuation routes look like. So that's good on them to be proactive. It was a warning, but just like small earthquakes, when we do neighborhood presentations, we find, of course, if it's a small shaker of 3.2, you suddenly get a lot of interest in what preparation looks like for their communities. But going back to what happened this summer, there was still confusion in the messaging. It was put out through most of the news media as an advisory, and the messaging was targeted to the areas that are most likely to be impacted. But you did still hear instances where people were told that it was a warning, and so I just put this extra graphic in here just to let you know that there is a difference in the 4 levels of notifications. The warning being the strongest, um, and then um, for Kamchatka earthquake in Russia, it was an advisory. So the Port of LA police were one of the leads in getting out to the marinas to let people know what the impacts were and what the recommended course of action would be, whether to tie up their vessels more tightly or possibly be ready to go out to sea if need be. Fortunately, that wasn't the case in this instance. And this is a graphic to show that in the purple ranges are professional first responders. They'll be having their hands tied when they prioritize life safety, property. So it speaks to how we need to turn to ourselves and our family and our neighbors as the triad of the immediate help until the help gets there. And so if we start with ourselves, there's simple things that are generally recommended, understanding what the risks are in your wherever you're at any given time. If your TVs are secure, um, any overhead equipment that you need to secure. If you have a place to dive into in case of an earthquake. So we had a disaster recovery center that was set up in support of the victims of the wildfires in the West LA area. UCLA was real kind to let us use a space of an old retail area on the west side. And so that was a message we were giving to a lot of their out of town agencies that were supporting folks. And so a lot of them came from out of town. Um, I'm thinking of FEMA, Cal OES, and so these are people other states not regularly familiarized with what to do during an earthquake. The drop, cover, and hold on. So that was an opportunity when a notification came, and I was advocating for everyone to sign up for those notifications. And sure enough, there was an earthquake that started in San Diego, and at the moment that the notification came out, everybody in the room's phones were going off almost in real time. So I would use that as a way to advocate for folks to sign up for those notifications. But also building a kit, you'll see checklists in the coming slides. It's not standard, but you can look in those lists. You can see what is most relevant, resonates most with you. Have a kit in your car, your home, and your work. Training is important. I would recommend and advocate for CERT. They're a good ally, a collaborator on our trainings. They have folks that can train others in first aid and basic search and rescue operations. So all these things help build up your level of preparation. And then the middle bullet point, developing emergency plan. That's so you can reach someone that's outside the area of any impact. So I have family in the Las Vegas area, so I just keep them informed. I understand that text messaging can get through, or phone calls would not be able to because of lesser bandwidth. That's just a continued plug, assert. They report as a result of the wildfires, their signups for the 18-hour trainings have gone up considerably. So that's good news. People have that on their minds, and so this is a good mechanism for people to act on that and get trained. And that's just an example. Most of the things that you learn are straightforward, but critical to build up your muscle memory on. And this is an example of that on how to operate a fire extinguisher when you need to in the clutch. So the PASS acronym, pull, aim, squeeze, sweep, is just something that you can get ingrained for children, older folks, people that for whom English is not their native language. So the trainings can accommodate all those groups. Amateur radio, some that I have a personal passion about, and so I would look to the hurricanes Milton and Helene last year in North Carolina, and their communication infrastructure was very severely damaged. And so organically, ham radio operators stood up local repeater stations where other operators, radio operators, can call in, check in, and relay welfare messaging, tell people where open gas stations are, where pharmacies who had medicine. So it becomes a lifeline that's just set up spontaneously, organically. And so I like to think that through the emergency communication groups that we are capable of pulling off something similar if need be. And this is our city emergency management department notify LA sign up plug. And so when we do public safety events, this is something that we push to try to get people to sign up. They can tailor their level of notifications. So it's the languages are other than English are available, and so this is something that we continually promote. And this will be important as we look to the days and years ahead when we have the big planned sporting events. We'll use that as a portal to push out traffic conditions, extreme heat. So it's not necessarily for large scale disasters, but other events that people need to know about. And this is something you'll see at a lot of public safety affairs. The county, to their credit, has been pushing this out to folks. Battery operated / 110 volt radios that push out specific weather forecasts, as well as alerts on impending weather that may impact us. These are called NOAA weather radios, and they're also available for purchase online too, something like along the lines of $30 on Amazon. But it's a real good tool. It will issue out irritating blaring sounds if you need pertinent information right away. So for example, an earthquake or even if tornadoes are not unheard of now. So when we go from individual to home family preparedness, there's a lot of overlap on the actions. You're just widening the circle on who you're going to do your planning with. And these are really granular lists of if you have special needs, specifically what your water and food needs, how to survive 7 days. In the city of Lakewood, where I'm a resident in, that's the signature program for emergency preparedness. It's called Survive for 7, and it's a good, easy mnemonic on how you can, when people ask how long should I be prepared for, you try to go for a week on your basic necessities, the contents of your go bags. And if you have pets or children, you'll probably want something separate for them as well, with the contents that they can survive for 7 as well. And so I'm an older person, so a lot of the messages and conversations I have at public safety fairs, most especially resonate with older folks. I know that they need more time for their evacuations. They may need help with putting together their emergency kits. And so we just break it down to 10 essentials for your kit. And so you can go to the other lists for, documents are really important, of course, but this is for if you got to evacuate your home or shelter in place. Um, this is what you would go to on your 10 essentials. And so I find that it's older folks, fortunately, that there's most buy-in. They tend to have higher um, percentages in terms of their preparation. And here's our signature program for the city of Los Angeles communities that we serve. It's Ryland, Ready Your LA neighborhood. And so at these same fairs that I speak of, we really promote groups, whether it's schools, churches, senior communities, um, day or night, weekends, holidays, to go to their location and help kickstart the conversations through the Ryland mechanism. And we walk with them on how their preparations can look like. And so we would meet with them, um, start the conversation. We have a 10, 12 page so-called shingle that we work through. Who can bring what to the fight? But it's mostly what's happening is organic neighbor to neighbor kind of conversations, and that's the the what the ideal is, how to start those conversations. And when we get to the part of that Ryland shingle, the part where we go through the inventory and find out who can bring what to the fight, whether it's an older person taking care of the younger kids or vice versa. Everybody has a skill they can bring or assets. Somebody was a carpenter, a nurse, and so we find that when that starts occurring, we can step back, and those conversations between neighbor and neighbor is what the objective of our Ryland is. And so we have Ryla, the Ready Your LA business, that we've been reaching out to local businesses. And so usually we get like a whole block of businesses when we pull one off. And then we get the businesses to talk to each other. So you can infer that it's a smaller mom and pop shop that don't have all the resources themselves, but collectively, by understanding what each can bring, they realize that there's strength in numbers and when they're prepared together. And so in the LA City and everywhere, look, there's still an issue with soft story structure construction. This is taken as a graphic from the '94 earthquake. They have that, wouldn't call it iconic, but it's the one everybody remembers where a 3-story building suddenly became 2-story. And that's because of that kind of pillar construction. And it's an overhang for where parking is set up underneath. And so those are vulnerable from lateral shaking, and it's only as strong as the weakest pillar. So in the city of Los Angeles, they've been real proactive in pushing incentives for identified structures to undergo seismic retrofit. Namely, in the case of the soft story structure, it's shoring up those pillars so the shaking laterally can at least be minimized somewhat. And here's a picture of 2 homes right next to each other. One has undergone seismic retrofit, namely going into the basement and doing bolting down the home to the foundation so it stays in one place and therefore minimize the shaking. And you can see that the house on the left unfortunately did not do that. And that a lot of times on that can happen on you don't need a big or the big one for that kind of damage to occur. And this is a graphic of the program. It's ongoing. They been doing a great job. It's at the state, the California Residential Mitigation Program, where they incentivize homeowners, and it's since expanded to multi-unit building owners to shore up their resilience to shaking by attaching the home to the foundation. It's called the Bolt Embrace and Bolt program. I've done it myself. Contractors are really vetted and work fairly fast. If you have a normal 3-bedroom home, you can. It was a 1-day job for the crew that came out and did the seismic refit on our home. And so couldn't leave without making mention to when you do your emergency planning to include those with access and functional needs. And it's not just mobility, but those that are not conversant in English. How do you help them get prepared? How do you help them maintain their independence? And how do you help them stay healthy? So these graphics with language, medicine, adaptive tools, support through neighbors and families, and transportation services. So it's all about bringing them to the planning table and consideration of their needs. And overall, that speaks to what FEMA has called the whole community approach. And so that's bringing everyone to the planning table, even older folks, kids. And so that kind of guides collective decision making that yields the best results when you make your plan. And these are resources that I use and I promote at public safety fairs and interactions with groups doing O'Reilly. So it's the brand names are Red Cross and CERT. Earthquake Country Alliance is a real good partner in pushing out earthquake and tsunami guidance. And I like this as a additional media resource. The LAS has put out an excellent podcast series for those of you that are subjected to the daily grind of the LA traffic. You can go through the whole series of podcasts. The big one is an 8-episode series, and it realistically, through audio, walks you through what an earthquake and an impact looks like for you. But the good news is that it offers excellent suggestions at the end of each episode. And so that was such a success. They followed it up with the Big Burn, with a similar take on learning about the science of wildfires and what you can do to mitigate your risk to them. And so near the end of this, yeah, just we all are cognizant of what lies ahead for us. This is coming up in what, 6 months. We're one of the host cities for the FIFA World Cup. So what you just as a way for you to place in your mind, what would that impact be in my neighborhood, whether it's traffic, get having a whole lot of visitors that are not from this area, how we can be better hosts to them. And it culminates with at the 28 Olympics. So we're fully cognizant of what we do at the END. We're working with federal, state partners with collective trainings for the planned events. We're going to our partners in Pasadena, doing trainings with our partners at all levels. So how can we collaborate in our efforts to be prepared? Yeah, it takes collective training as on the part of all of us. So thank you for your time, and I could take any questions, or if, I know I came at you at a fire hose rate, but hopefully you gives you some food for thought.
Yes, thank you so much. I will, information very helpful and informative. I feel like I need to go back home and check my list for emergencies. I used to do a better job at that, but you know, you let things go. So I will open it up for questions, but I will start with Commissioner Cottle. You made the recommendation, so I will open it up and you could start with questions and then we can rotate around.
Okay, thank you, Eric, for taking the time to come out to give us the presentation. I was invited to their emergency management facility, and I think the key for this being really successful is, how do we get this information out to the 4 million residents of Los Angeles? And unfortunately, the majority of the people are very passive. And when something happens, they expect the city services to come and save them, but that's not going to happen. And so this preparedness is a key to making us ready for these emergencies. And so I'm on this commission really to be promoting the plan for a healthy LA. I helped the council member Bill Rosenthal do outreach in the area. It's a very preventative plan, but once it got designed, it just sat on the shelves. And once it was published. Now, if we can somehow work in getting people interested in doing the preventative work, we could avoid big disasters. I think the plan for a healthy LA, if the communities had embraced it with the support of the city, the council members, it could have mitigated a lot of the damage through COVID, which is unexpected, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we wait for COVID to happen. We're not prepared, and we see how the underserved communities are the hardest hit, unfortunately, because of the resources. There's not enough resources or finances that could make this emergency preparedness work unless we have people in the communities that are going to work to make this go. So I think I'm going to be making the suggestion for next month's presenter to be the chair for the Congress of Neighborhood Councils. I think there's 99 neighborhood councils. There's about 6 or 7 in each council district. You give the message to the council, the mayor, and it goes to the council district, it sort of dies there. But if we work with the neighborhood councils, right, this is where I think we could get more community engagement and how to prepare ourselves better with this information. So I have a couple questions. Sorry. The reason why I wanted you to enlighten us was so that we could get a better idea of how we can make this city better by engaging ourselves, not by waiting for people to come save us. But okay, ham radios. You talk about this being key when there's a major disaster. These people pop up. Do you have sort of like a map of like how many operators or licensed operators there are throughout the city and what areas they're concentrated in, or
Well, operators meaning the,
the amateur radios, right?
oh, yes, yes. Through ACS, the Auxiliary Communication Service, um, they pattern and understand their locations uh, the same way that the LAFD fire stations are located and grouped as battalions. And so that kind of mirrors what LAFD does. And so we have radio operators pretty much in all the battalions in the city. And how we know that they're active is that through weekly structured radio check-ins, everybody has to check in and report out on a weekly basis. And that's a great way for them to test their equipment, learn the cadence of net control. So um, it will mirror how we find all our members in the event um, of a bad day for LA. And so they have that ingrained in them. And so from that point, we can tell whether we're going to be activated and whether they need to report to the EOC, because there is a adjoining amateur radio room at the EOC, and their role is to provide, backup emergency communications. And so that's something that they practice on a continuous basis.
How many active operators would you sort of guess to be within
Oh.
our city?
For ACS, it's about 80,
80?
85 that are,
80?
that are
Okay.
active within ACS. But there's a number of other amateur radio groups too, as well. And so ARES is a big one, and they support hospital operations. And so collectively, it gets into the hundreds between those groups. And I'm thinking of the sheriff's group as well. And,
Okay.
they operate out of the sheriff stations throughout the county, and then the ARES groups have close ties with the larger medical centers.
Okay, thank you. And my next question, you have like the evacuation routes set for like tsunamis and things like that. I was in Hawaii between 84 and 86 when there was a really big tsunami warning. But, people aren't used to it, right?
Yeah.
So it comes out and they don't act right away.
Mm.
And then when the message keeps coming out, they all go out together. So there's this gigantic congestion. Everyone's stopped and they could be great victims of the big wave, right? Is there any way to sort of put together a warning chart saying that, hey, if you hear this warning at this level, if you get into your car and leave in 5 minutes and use the evacuation routes, your chance of getting out of there is, this percent, versus if you wait 30 minutes, it's going to be this percent.
Mm.
And if you wait like an hour, forget it. Just so, people could mentally prep themselves, right?
Sure. Yeah. It was interesting, the aftermath of the Kamchatka earthquake this summer. I did a couple of public safety events. One was at Pacific Station, and there was feedback from folks. There were remember two sisters. One of them lived locally, and she was mad because her sister told her, you got to evacuate, and they went to another relative in the valley. And so I applauded that, because you always err on the side of caution, and you do it in a timely manner. You don't want to. There's this phenomenon of confirmation bias, where people have to get that validated. So it's very rare when people respond immediately and affirmatively after a disaster. They have to find out and get it validated. That's why the messaging is real important. It has to be timely and accurate. and um, and the targeted part's important too because yeah, they had to move because they're in the Venice area, but
Right.
someone in Culver City would be outside the inundation zone. So it's important to get the message through portals like My Hazards .gov, I think, and it's put out by Cal OES, and you can just type in your address, and it will show you what you're most at risk to. And so, whether that's inundation, liquefaction, where the the ground below you is not so stable, and so that helps inform your preparations as well too. And because you can put in your home address, it resonates more to you when you find out, oh, that's my risk, and you kind of own it, and then that's your building block for preparation. So, but yeah, it's not a given. It's the but it's worthy for when I go out and do the outreach, and every person you get committed to a presentation, it's a win, and you hope that they're force multipliers and passing that on.
Okay, so I don't want to take too much time, but just one last thing. You have this graph about response time,
Yes.
and I think it's so important to emphasize this last one where it says professional help within days and weeks, just to get people to think that, oh, I've got to get
Yeah.
ready. And I was with part of a residents association emergency preparedness group on the west side
Mm-hmm.
way back in the days, when it was Map Your Neighborhood before Ryland. It's just so hard to organize these kind of networks. Uh, and I think Ryland too, you're too much manpower to get something like that working. And then, if there is interest, people go on to CERT. I did that too,
Mm.
which is highly, recommended. But yeah, so my suggestion would be looking for ways to work with the 99 neighborhood councils to
Yeah.
find one person there in that council
Mm-hmm.
that may be interested in being the liaison for the emergency management department, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, when they've had uh, the the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, they've asked the neighborhood councils to designate like a liaison for filmmaking, so that they could sort of scan their area. Liaison for the Department of Aging,
Yeah.
so that they could work more at the local level. So maybe, something like that might
Mm-hmm.
working with them to see if they might want to designate a liaison for the emergency. You'd at least have 99 throughout the city
Mm-hmm.
and somehow filter out more of this information to them.
Yeah. When we have the quote big ticket events, Tsunami Awareness Week in March, I got multiple requests to do presentations for a boating group, CV11, National Preparedness Month. CD15 had 3 requests over the summer for presentations and panels. So those were very encouraging. Groups that have specific concerns like chemical plumes being near a rail transfer facility. So those that tells me that if I can kind of couch it in terms of finding and identifying something that's near and dear to a local neighborhood group, say like the plume affecting them, and then work from that to build up overall preparations. And so, yeah, for the boating group, Tsunami Week, yeah, and those are natural ways to work your way in. And it's almost like leaving the door ajar and then getting them prepared for A to Z at that point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we'll just, because we have two other presentations, we'll just take one or two more questions and then transition.
Absolutely.
So thank you for your presentation. I am a advocate supporter of community emergency response team training. Been involved over 10 years with CERT training. What I found 10 years ago is there was a deficiency in CERT trainings in our most vulnerable communities. With recent budget cuts, has the city fire department reprioritized those communities to offer access to CERT training? It's not new, but what I've found is that some communities just don't have access to the training. So do you know if the fire department has prioritized those communities?
That's a great question. I don't know specifically um, how they can um, reach those groups or a concerted effort to reach out to those groups, but I know that certain instructors amongst their battalion leadership, they make a more proactive and engaged effort to reach out to uh, those communities where English is not the native language. And yeah, that's ongoing. It is a challenge, but yeah, we did see that there was a spike after the fires. So it's almost literally striking while the iron's hot to push out trainings in the aftermath of the near misses, whether it's a smaller earthquake or the events that I spoke of, where people have built-in awareness and they want to act on it. But in terms of what the LAFD is doing, I know it's a challenging fiscal climate and continues to be so. But yeah, at the leadership level, they are hitting all the spots in terms of a presence at the public safety events that I go to and get invited to. CERT is always there at the same events, and so um, I know we all can dig harder and the outreach to those groups, but yeah, I feel like the numbers indicate that there's a more resurgence of interest.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So a significant amount of the water that we get for the city of Los Angeles comes from the Colorado River, has to be pumped up over the mountain, and you showed us a pipeline
Yes.
from that. In a large earthquake that would take out that one big pipeline temporarily, either directly damaging the pipeline or alternatively the electricity that pumps need to pump the water up over the mountain. How much water would the city of Los Angeles lose, and how long would it be offline? And what impact would that have on the city? And what plans does your department have, if that should happen, to maintain enough water for people to drink and or to put out fires?
Oh, that's a great question. That is the question, right? Because without water, there's no life, and we import that water, and it's a vulnerability. I mentioned that it does cross over the San Andreas Fault at some point. I know that they do have plans, in the disruption to um, put back in place the damaged sections. Um, it's hard to say if something were significant enough to sever that, what the timeline is exactly to replace all the damaged parts. That's almost I would say a utility question. We would respond to what are ways we can immediately get water with the water that's obtainable here while the repairs are made. I don't know the timeline exactly when that could be restored.
if you could find that out from your internal department and let our research associates know, that'd be important for us to know,
Yeah.
because otherwise we can't make plans. I mean,
Mm.
if you lose 40% of your water for 5 days or 10 days and there are fires going on, you know,
Yeah.
that word conflagration is going to be, you know, on all the news stations across the country.
Yeah, and that's,
And
I'm
then
welcome that. Yeah, that's
the second question I had is, we unfortunately in the city of Los Angeles only have a half-time medical director for the LAFD and the EMS, and one half-time assistant. With your disaster planning processes, do you believe, from your expertise, that the city ought to have more leadership physicians for both the fire department as well as for the EMS?
yeah, that's it goes back to the budget constraints, but these are vital roles. Agreed, and yeah, I know I could speak to our department, the END, were 30 to 32 full-time employees divided into planning division, technology innovation division. I'm with community partnerships, and then there's operations training. And so those positions in those departments, I would need to research that and get back to you.
Please, okay. And the last very quick question is, we know you mentioned the Olympics and the FIFA World Cup. Are we making plans, or is there a committee that is looking into what happens from a global infectious disease point of view or from a bioterrorism point of view during either of those events weeks that are here in Los Angeles? Do you guys have a plan in place, or is there a plan to create one?
That is an excellent question too. I know we have in our emergency operations plan, we do have annexes on after COVID. Um, I would make a educated guess that the protocol, the plans are lined up in one of the annexes. But yeah, I think we need a closer collaboration with those kinds of scenarios, especially with the big influx of visitors from out of town. I understand it to be about 1 million people visiting plus for the Olympics alone, and what we need to be cognizant of and how to plan for that type of scenario. We do have plans that we're going through now. I can't speak specific with any specificity on what the plan is, but let me again,
Thank you.
it's on the record. And I'm on the hook to
Fantastic. Thank you for your excellent presentation. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Again, thank you so much for your time and your presentation. Any information that you receive, you can send it to Rita. And if there's any additional questions, folks can, would you be open to, if there was any additional questions from anybody, to send that to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because I can be the messenger, and I work with people that are much smarter than me and more experienced, and can get you the accurate information. But I could be your point of contact
Okay.
and push for those answers to the
Great.
question.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. You're more than happy to stay and listen to the other presentations, or it's okay, our feelings won't be hurt if you need to.
Oh, I really appreciate the offer, and please reach out to us, and I'm sure that we can arrange a visit for you, and then can go and dive into how the processes work at the EMD.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, take care. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to transition and invite Ms. Jones and Dr. Franklin to the table.
Thank you for having us.
Good evening. Thank you.
One on the commission this evening, right? I want to invite him to speak with us. Information.
Speak closer into the
Microphone.
mic.
Hello.
All right, that good?
Much better.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you have to click great.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you for your time this evening. We're honored here today to share about mighty and beautiful work, the African American Infant and Maternal Mortality Prevention Initiative, which we call AIM. I'm excited to be joined by my colleague, Adjoa Jones, Birth Equity Unit Chief and AIM Director. I'm Melissa Franklin. I'm Director of Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health for the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. And I have the honor of leading programs focused on supporting thriving individuals and families in LA County, including our AIM initiative and Birth Equity Unit. And you'll hear more about that work today or this evening. Our Black Infant Health Program, our Perinatal Innovation Unit, which includes doula programs, including doula support for incarcerated individuals, and our AIM doula program, and you'll hear more about that. Several home visitation parent coaching programs for pregnant and newly parenting families, including our Project Hope, which supports individuals who are pregnant or newly parenting and are unhoused. Help Me Grow program, which provides child development support and links families of children with special health care needs and developmental needs with a team of parents with that very same experience to help them navigate our systems in support of their children. Our Positive Youth Development and Youth Advisory Council, our Asthma Coalition, and our Childhood-Led Poisoning Prevention Program. I'm also an Angelino through and through, LA County born and raised, South LA City resident for most of my life. So just honored to be here.
But are you a Dodger fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right. You are a native Angelino.
Old school Dodger fan too. My dad used to be mistaken for Kenny Landreau whenever we'd leave the park, and he'd be asked for autographs, and it's like one of my favorite memories. So this is a huge year for us. Looking forward to number 3. Next slide. Today we're going to share a high-level overview of our work to address the heartbreaking reality that exists across our nation. Inequitably high rates of Black infant and maternal deaths when compared to other races. We will share an overview of our response and highlight some key efforts. And then we'll welcome Q&A because this is a highly synthesized deck. The data alone could be an hour presentation. It's pretty in-depth, I would have to say. What you see in our nation, to a large extent, you see it in our state and in our county and in our cities. Next slide. Speaking of data, I want to call out some key data points. I also want to note that we're currently working on the ability to report city level data because we know that is of interest across our county. We do have the data for LA County. We have it by SPA. And if you're interested in knowing which cities fall into areas of highest disparity, who have the largest Black populations, that would be SPA 1, which is Antelope Valley, and SPA 6 and 8, which cover LA proper. So, we would ask, well, what about Los Angeles City? Does this disparity exist within LA City boundaries? And unfortunately, the answer is yes, it just looks different across our county. When our initiative began, we focused on the high impact areas, and that was there was SPA 6 and 8 and SPA 1.
Would you know what council districts it's overlaps?
We're working on we had a similar request recently, and we're working on a council district specific request. Some of the information or data, because of the relatively tight numbers, we're looking at how can we report it and maintain confidentiality. And you'll see some of the ways we've done it with maternal mortality, which is reported in 5-year moving averages or show it in 10-year chunks, or have more, within DPH, we can look at the data locally and give high level summative information.
I think for us, it's easier to visualize with council districts
Absolutely.
rather than SPAL because we're not really too familiar with the SPAL for the counties.
Yeah, with that, where we focus our efforts mostly are on
Can you speak closer into the mic,
South
please?
LA, and the neighboring to South Bay, and then in Santa Clarita and San Fernando Valley, as well as downtown. It's really wherever any African American resides. And so all of our programs and services are open to all within LA County. And some come from Orange and San Bernardino and Riverside. We partner with them as well.
And we can take that back as a request for council districts and see how we can average the data in order to protect anonymity. I will say when we first started the effort in 2018, 2017, 2018, West Athens was an area of particular high disparity, premature birth in particular. And I remember that because I lived in West Athens at the time. I had 2 children who were premature babies while living in West Athens, and it really just it connected to see that there. And I'll share more about that. So great questions, and we're happy to bring it back. 2 measures we look at are infant and maternal mortality. Infant mortality is defined as a death of an infant before their first birthday and is measured by infant death per every 1,000 live births. I'm sorry that the IMR column is not highlighted. It's right next to the blue highlights on the graphic, the infant mortality rate. But I'll call it out. The infant mortality rate for Black individuals in LA County for 2021 was 7.1 for every 1,000 live births. In 2022, 9.6 for every 1,000 live births, and 8.9 in 2023. We're just now getting to the years where we're seeing, we'll be able to see it outside of the impact of the height of the pandemic. And it's reported in this way because we have to wait to that year mark, right? So for infant to die before their first birthday. Across the board, this is 2 to 3 times the rate of any other group mentioned here. So white, Hispanic, Asian, and then the entirety of LA County you could see on the chart as well. Historically, Black infant health, it's important to note that premature birth is the primary condition leading to infant mortality. So when we talk about prevention efforts as it relates to preventing infant mortality, a lot of our work will focus on how do we prevent premature birth. Next slide. Maternal mortality, which is considered a relatively infrequent occurrence, though both Angela and I had the honor and the sadness of supporting 2 families within 6-month time who experienced a Black maternal death in 2022. I think that was 2022. So though maternal mortality is considered relatively infrequent, is why it's measured per 100,000 individuals and is defined as the death of a woman while pregnant or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and site of the pregnancy, from any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy or its management, but not from accidental or incidental deaths. And again, I forgot to mention that I'm sorry if this is an experience that you had, if you've lost a pregnancy that was desired, a child, or the birth experience that you desired, or a loved one from maternal mortality. Many of us in the work, including myself and Angela, do share that as an unfortunate bonding, and just know that we're working hard, leaning hard to make a change. And we believe that, especially in the city, this city of all cities should be a city where joyous and abundant, health-filled births are possible, that this should be the best city to be pregnant in and have a child in should you desire. And so we're working toward that. So forgive me for not saying that up front. LA County's rates are presented here in 5-year moving averages. As I mentioned, it's to protect anonymity of the individuals. As you can see, the African American rates, which are second from the right are 3 to 4 times the rate of any other race, and that holds up across our state. It holds up across our nation. I would have to say that California's infant and maternal mortality rates tend to be better than the rest of the nation. What we are interested in is for that not to exist, for there not to be disparity. And often we get asked, well, in an age of unparalleled medical advancements, how could this be? Well, it's complicated and traditional notions do not hold up. I mentioned that these are just two snapshots of a very detailed data deck. We've looked at Black women who've never smoked during pregnancy, worse birth outcomes than white women who did smoke during pregnancy. And if that fluctuates, it never gets better. Black women who have beyond a college education above, compared to white women who have a high school diploma, still worse birth outcomes. That's measured by premature births. So that tells us that yes, though having stable income, having education, avoiding behavior that put your pregnancy at risk, those are all good things, but they're not the reason for the difference in the data. So we don't want to make sure that we're not saying, oh, go ahead and smoke, or it doesn't matter if someone's living in poverty. That's what we're looking at is why is there a difference between all of the races and Black individuals? And the answer really falls to a complex interaction of factors. One being the history of Black folks in our nation, slavery and generational trauma, oppression, racism. You know, my mother lived through segregation, right? That's not so far back, right? And the impacts of that on our bodies, interpersonal racism, how we're treated by systems. We look at our healthcare system, our education system, our criminal justice system. You see Black individuals are experiencing disparity across all those systems. And so the pounding of that, plus inequitably being impacted by economic hardship, our treatments in the healthcare sector, and our healthcare system in the United States still growing into its potential to be life affirming and supporting and healthful, that all really impacting Black folks' bodies. There's a whole body of research by Dr. Geronimous who talks about weathering and the impact of trauma and stress on our bodies and how it shows up in terms of medical conditions. And we often say stress kills. As it relates to pregnancy, it creates a vulnerability there as well. And what the data has shown us is that things that we look to as protective factors do not necessarily buffer against the harm of a society that has not demonstrated consistently care, concern, and upliftment of Black individuals and our humanity. And our understanding is rooted in science and research of the impact of trauma and stress, as I mentioned. So generational trauma, structural inequity, and discriminatory and biased treatment, they all have an impact. Next slide. I also want to note that there are other ways that this stress shows up in the bodies of Black pregnant individuals: difficulty conceiving, miscarriage, preterm birth, longer labor, low birth weight, childhood cognitive and emotional development concerns. And so our response to this crisis is the African American Infant and Maternal Mortality Prevention Initiative, and you'll hear more about it from Adjoa as she shares a bit about our history and what we bring to this work. The goal of the initiative is not simply to end or address the disparity. The goal of the initiative is to foster abundant, beautiful, joyous births for Black folks in LA County. For that to be the end goal and not simply not dying or not simply surviving our birth. As I mentioned, both of my children were premature, and even though that was about 1,005,000 years ago, I did all the right things. I had at that time a master's degree, home, career, husband, consistent prenatal appointments, healthy weight, healthy lifestyle, folic acid, did all the things, yet I had an outcome. Both my children were born at 27 weeks, 5 days to the day. And I almost died in the birth of my second child, despite all that. And it wasn't until I began learning about the data and the realities in our county that the shame that I carried for so long really just melted off my shoulders and was replaced with a resolve to see for joy and abundance for my children and for the next generations to come, and just had the distinct blessing of beginning the work as a Pritzker Fellow, uplifting already present and ongoing work led out by Ms. Jones and others who have been in this effort for longer than I've been around, and just excited to see where it is today. And so with that, we'll turn it over to Adwa, who would share more about our AIM initiative.
Thank you so much, Dr. Franklin, and thank you to the Health Commission
You want me
for
to?
sure
Yeah.
inviting us to participate. I, like Dr. Franklin, am a lifetime resident thus far of Los Angeles City. I've been here for over 5 decades, born and raised in South Central. My dad worked for Parks and Recs for over 40 years. And so my experience was slightly different. I was a teen mom. I stayed at St. Anne's Family Services Center. But while there, I learned a lot about family support. Those that didn't have it, I interacted with. And then when I went into college at 16 at Cal State Dominguez, I decided then what I wanted to do was focus on community health and engagement in health and social services. And I met a nurse in the late 80s, early 90s, Delilah Crenshaw, who invited me to the first Black Infant in Health program, which was Great Beginnings for Black Babies. Many of you, if you were here at that time at Crenshaw and King, there was a billboard, and it showed the womb of a mom with a baby in there, and then the baby was connected to a 40-ounce bottle. So it was encouraging folks to, the community to know. The community became up in an uproar, like, what is this? So I had to be one of the first community health workers to go out there and say, listen, what we're trying to do is encourage early prenatal care. What we're trying to do is inform. But at the time, we weren't looking at the drug epidemic and pandemic that was really impacting our community, that it was a lot of victim blaming and shaming. And over time, I began to learn more about what the impacts of biases in healthcare and services has done to our community. So I, as a public health leader, didn't see much resolve throughout the years. We lost funding in that program, and then it was a time when we were meeting in 2017, 2018, and I thought, what a great idea for us to bring community and government together in a 50-50 partnership to look at how we can improve African American infant and maternal mortality. And so excitedly, we created this initiative. It was the same time Dr. Ferrer was speaking out about racism being one of the first and leading causes of infant mortality. And the county public health was not focused on maternal mortality. Since I was at DHS, I really pushed for our department to collectively work together to focus on maternal mortality prevention, education, and awareness. And so got to invite Dr. Namza and others in our community, like Great Beginnings for Black Babies, California Black Women's Health Project, working with Department of Public Health, Mental Health, and Health Services, to form these efforts and really going around the community to get started. So next slide. So our initiative values, this is where we came together with our community, and everyone from the community spoke on what is the issue and what would we like to see the initiative values focused on. And so these started with racism being the root cause, Black women or Black folks up front and leading, fostering equity while fighting inequity, meaning just like Dr. Franklin shared, that it doesn't have anything to do with your socioeconomic status. It's more the color of your skin, and how we wanted to address anti-racism and implicit bias by also uplifting the work done by our current Supervisor Mitchell when she was senator with SB 464, which was the California Dignity in Pregnancy and Childbirth Act to address bias in healthcare. And then we were all pieces of the puzzle, meaning anyone in our county should be involved in working to prevent. So folks would often ask, why are we doing African American? And we would share that's who's dying at the highest risk. Those are the ones at risk with the most disparate outcomes. And if we improve for African Americans, then we improve for all. So policy and advocacy and the work that we've created is not just focused on race, because the services then are provided to all who are in need of pregnant and parenting. And then there's no blame game. Like I mentioned about the billboard, back then it was shifting the blame to like, you're totally responsible, and not about care and prevention and treatment and substance abuse treatment that can be offered if that's the issue. But that wasn't the only issue taking place at the time. And so those are some of the ways in which we created our values to address the issue. Next slide.
I would also add to that the strategies that we landed on really had to do with disrupting the impact, preventing stress, but disrupting the impact of stress. And so you'll hear in the some of the program elements, it really has that as a focus in addition to advocacy and policy development and changing how we approach this work. And that you don't have to be a Black individual to be a part of this work and advance it. That's where pieces of the puzzle comes in. We believe from the beginning that everyone has a role to play. You just have to believe that it's not acceptable for Black babies to die at greater rates than any other race. You just need to believe that it's important for everyone in our county and in our city to have access to healthy and joyous births, and wherever that is not happening, to lean in together to help make it happen.
Exactly. So initially, this we're gonna try to redo this bubble because it is like so much. It's a forest now. We had a flower back in the day, and it was just like the main bubble, and maybe just 3 or 4 around the smaller bubbles, and then two of the like pink and blue bubbles. But we have expanded over the last 7 years to where you can hardly see it. So this is going to have to be like a 2 to 3 page share of what we're doing in the initiative. So the AIM management team is comprised of First 5 LA, the Department of Public Health, and we just brought on a community strengthening partner, which is Black Girls Mental Health Foundation, that will work more closely with our community. Is this the best mic? Or do you guys feel like it's too much feedback?
We hear you nicely.
Say it again.
Might be a little too close now.
Okay, now I'm too close. Okay. Maybe I'll just speak up a little. I generally have a very loud voice, but I didn't want to be like really speaking up too loud. So at any rate, our programs that we offer are our AIM Community Doula Program. I'll go into a little bit more about that one. Our community action team, we have now 4 community action teams that serve 5 of our service planning areas, and like shared by Mr. Cato, we'll work to like spread that out so you can see how we impact in the city council districts. As well, we also have our policy and advocacy work group. We have the mother board. We also have a doula advisory committee. And then those smaller bubbles around are our partners like Black Women for Wellness, California Black Women's Health Project, Charles Drew University Black Maternal Health Center of Excellence, as well as the California Black Birth Justice Collective. And so Antelope Valley Partners, our Black Infant Health Program, the list has grown and grown. Essential Health Access has also been a partner supporting us in preconception health and counseling. And so this just gives you a small idea of the strategic advisors that are part of and our Black Birth Equity partners as well. Next slide. So as shared, how we started this initiative really was in 2018. We first introduced the community action team. We invited individuals into a meeting in South LA, South Bay. We partnered with Kaiser, and there were over 100 folks that showed up to the first meeting. And we said, should we start community action teams to address this as a 50-50 partnership between community and government? And they said emphatically yes. And so we really launched in 2019, and that was the impetus for creating the entire initiative, where Dr. Franklin and Helen, our co-lead and partner in this work, started the the steering committee, and then each community action team was born thereafter. Antelope Valley, and then came San Gabriel and Santa Clarita valleys. And in these community action teams, we have organizations from all over the county who are coming together to meet. We meet bi-weekly for our planning team meetings, and then each community action team meets bi-monthly. And we have various topics around perinatal health that we speak of. We also host we host baby showers, Father's Day, engagement events, virtual offerings, and so much more, and partner throughout the community to address and really share with folks and highlight other agencies and the work that they're doing. Because oftentimes people don't know what another organization is doing. And so you might hear, well, nobody's accessing the services. And that's because they don't know what you're doing behind closed doors. So if we can highlight those organizations and uplift and support, then we can ensure that others really get access and lean into those services. Next slide. Like, I want to invite the gentleman that was here to share on how do we prepare for emergency, because we need that with formula. Families will need that. They will need to know where they can go for food, shelter, resources, and then also build our own emergency kits at home as well. So, as Dr. Franklin shared, our actual maternal loss that we suffered was one in January of 2023. I was like, let me think back. How old is Anaya?
2020.
And then the other was in March of 2023. So you see this gentleman in the picture. His name is Freddie Cromer, and he's lost his wife, Bridget Cromer, having their fifth child right at a local hospital nearby from a preventative maternal mortality. And so that's the work that we do. You see him with three of his children. He became an ambassador for our fatherhood engagement program, and we still work with him to this day. Next slide. Our fatherhood engagement program really focuses on informing fathers of the risk associated with infant and maternal mortality and morbidity. It also allows for them to be educated and further support their families as they're growing, their families to be able to be present and involved during the entire pregnancy, birthing, and postpartum, as well as well baby care. Next slide. So in this slide, you see several of our fathers with our fatherhood engagement coordinator, Davion Malden. We partnered with our Black Infant Health Program earlier this year to create an ambassador program where we would have dads who had gone through the Expecting Fathers group, which is like a 6-session series for new dads, to then become ambassadors to bring other dads into the program. And we stipended them, we provided them with a stipend for their role as well. And then these dads have been very excited. They're still post the pilot program, which we're looking to expand with additional funding. They have still been volunteering their time to attend the meetings and to until share and spread the message. They also have what we call Black Daddy Dialogue, which is a support group for fathers of Black children that meets every second Wednesday of the month. Next slide. I'm just kind of like speeding up stuff a little because I know Dr. Frank can share with you. This is generally like an hour or so long. So our other program that we really started after we launched officially in 2019 was our AIM Community Doula Program, where we offer free doula services to African American women to be provided by African American women. Because part of when we were starting the AIM initiative, many said their issue and concern was there weren't providers that looked like them. So we can say for certain through the slide you saw with our forest that we've expanded the Black Birth Worker Pipeline. There have been organizations that have started their own maternal health programs. They've also started their own organizations like CDU, Black Maternal Health Center of Excellence. And so what our doulas do is provide like support during the during, and post pregnancy. And so we're excited to say this program was first funded by Whole Person Care, who I used to work with. But doulas are not medical professionals. Doulas are those who provide care from the waist up And basically, that is just supportive care. To be present, like I said, during that, provide education support, lend an ear, go to doctor's visits with the client if necessary, also show up for the birthing experience, but to help support during the birthing experience. I just attended a live birth the other day and I was like, yeah, I'm going to stay on the postpartum side. I want to wait till after baby gets here. And so they also provide maybe even going to the home to help mom and family while mom may need to rest, just help cleaning up. Our doulas do a lot of various services. They provide referrals to additional resources. Sometimes we have discovered, and I'll share more when I get to the Abundant Birth program, that some of our families are housing insecure. Some of our families are experiencing domestic violence, intimate partner violence. They're also having some issues with childcare or maybe even job security. So our doulas do a number of programmatic supportive services. What they do not do is catch the baby. They do not perform clinical tasks such as exams or fetal heart monitoring. They don't give medical advice or diagnose conditions. They don't make decisions for the client, whether that's medical or otherwise, or pressure them to make decisions. They don't take over the role of the partner, support person, or family member. They do, they don't change shifts, although some doulas will have backup support. I'm generally like one as a doula that I am the interim, like your go between till you get to your assigned doula. And so that is a journey that I've been excited about, supporting families through that. I've also, like Dr. Franklin said, I was the doula for the dads, so I was the death doula for both of those dads that suffered the loss for a couple of years and still connected with them now. Next slide. So this is just a snapshot of us at one of our doula community events. Like I stated, Whole Person Care initially funded the doula program, and then we got a grant from the Department of Public Health, a home visitation grant. So that's been funding us since 2021. We also were able to expand to the Central Regional Detention Facility and over on Imperial to provide care for those who are in custody at the jail and then also to support them thereafter. So we've been doing that. We're excited about our CFCI program. We've also been able to train a number of doulas on how to support and become jail doulas. We also have the CalWorks Home Visiting Collaboration Pilot and cross referrals to DPSS. And then thankfully from, again, another partnership with Supervisor Mitchell, we were able to launch the Medi-Cal Doula Hub, which supports we supported policy, like me and three other colleagues presented a board motion to our board of supervisors in January of 2020, right before the pandemic, to look at the expansion of doula services. And so hence now with SB 65, which is the California Omnibus, which allows for anyone who's pregnant to receive a doula, we felt it necessary to create this Medi-Cal Doula Hub that really supports anyone who wants to become a doula on learning how they can become Medi-Cal providers and get supported in that role. And so we've been doing a lot of work around that. Next slide.
Before we go to the next slide, I wanted to note, oftentimes we get asked, well, how does focusing on addressing a population that's more impacted by disparity help everyone access healthy and joyful births? And this is the prime example because of the work of the AIM Doula program, as well as advocates across the AIM network, the expansion to the Century Regional Detention Facility that's available to any person who's incarcerated who is eligible for the program. The CalWorks Home Visiting Collaboration, which is also in our division, that's available to any of our CalWorks Home Visiting clients. And then the Medi-Cal Doula policy itself really came on the work of doulas who are working to address Black birth disparities. So when we say, well, how does this benefit everyone? It really does. If we're able to address or find solutions for those impacted most by a disparity or an injustice, then that opens the door for those solutions to be to support all individuals. We do receive calls from folks interested in our AIM Doula program who are not African American. We do not turn anyone away. Also, those that are interested in being doulas in our program, we do not turn anyone away as well. So I just wanted to highlight, like, this is an example of the work of addressing those most impacted and how it benefits all in our county.
Right. Though we have a certain amount of capacity, we do have partnering organizations that we can refer others to for doula services. So this is just a snapshot of some of our doulas. They offer 3 prenatal visits. This is available to clients throughout their pregnancy. Like I shared, the supports they offer mental health screening and referral, and 3 postpartum visits, regardless of the pregnancy outcome. And when we started this doula program, we were able to be the ones that really fought for a healthy living wage for doulas. And so when it came time for California to fund that through Medi-Cal, we fought and brought that to bear with the team that also leads the doula hub and many other leaders and advocates to fight for a healthy living wage for doulas. Next slide. And so, as shared about the Doula Hub and the Medi-Cal benefit, the services that are available are like a initial 90-minute visit, up to 8 visits, support during labor, delivery, abortion, and miscarriage, 2 extended 3-hour postpartum visits. And then the services can be provided anywhere: telehealth, home, in a birthing center, hospital. We actually, the birth I mentioned was at a birth center just right up the street. So we do have colleagues that have the Mind and Body Birth Center that is right here local. And Faith, the midwife, is a wonderful Caucasian sister that does a great job and is partnered with 2 other Black women to lead the efforts in this region locally. Medi-Cal members who are pregnant or have been pregnant in the past year are eligible for doula services, and beneficiaries can find a doula by referencing our DHCS doula directory. We've also put, and Dr. Franklin will talk a little bit about our partnership with managed care plans, as well as the Medi-Cal Doula Hub has worked with several managed care plans to expand and so that they can inform their clients of the availability of doula services and really how to access doulas if they're interested. Next slide.
And Frontline Doulas are our organization who leads out our Medi-Cal Doula Hub.
Right. And then we have a motherboard. So how this came to be, the motherboard was another colleague of ours, Diamond Lee and Tavier Owls, were leading our policy and advocacy work group and really wanted to bring more community voices of those moms with lived experience into the conversation. And so the county had a productivity investment fund which we applied for and had this opportunity to develop a motherboard. And initially, it was just going to be 11 members. But when we put out the application in community, over 160 women applied. And so we only had the opportunity to interview about 60 of those women. And almost, I would say 90% of those women had a traumatic birthing or pregnancy experience. And so when we launched the motherboard excitedly, it was so many that we wanted to just really bring aboard. And so instead of just sticking with 11, we went with 22 for our first launch of the motherboard. And so that was 2 years ago. Next slide. And so, what the motherboard has been working on is governance, policy and advocacy, community outreach and engagement, and capacity building. They've also been learning policy to go and present and lobby across the state around issues concerning maternal mortality, morbidity, perinatal health, and the services and resources needed by moms. They've also supported us in our next program that I will share, the Abundant Birth Project. Several of them also got pregnant during their time on the motherboard again, and also were able to become Abundant Birth Project Guaranteed Income pilot recipients. And so, excitingly, this project has also led to the next phase for some motherboard members to join the Leadership Council as their time will end, as it's a 2-year opportunity to be on the motherboard. Next slide. So this is another project that I excitedly got to direct. Dr. Zaya Malawa brought this project to our attention. She was the doctor out of San Francisco with Expecting Justice that led the first pregnancy-related guaranteed income program in the nation. And so when CDSS offered us the opportunity or put out their application request for guaranteed income pilot programs as a part of the law of SB 65 for California to implement some pilot programs. The first was for us to, she asked us, LA County, would we apply with several other counties for the Abundant Birth Project, which we did with 4 other counties, and we were able to successfully, thank you, Dr. Franklin, Dr. Allen, Dr. Pereira. Uh, Dr. Allen was our former Health Promotion Bureau Chief, and we launched this program in January of 2024. Next slide. So as a part of the only counties that got to participate were LA, Contra Costa, Riverside, and Alameda. For our LA program, this was offered to those that were at risk for the most disparate pregnancy and birthing outcomes. And we ended up enrolling 410 women in the Abundant Birth Program, offering them a stipend or providing them a stipend of 18 months at $107.
800.
807. Yeah, 807. I'm like, I want to mix up 810, but $807 a month for 18 months. And so we are very excited about this program. We had 8 coaches. So that's the difference with our guaranteed income program. The women were able to opt into coaching. We had over a 75% opt-in rate of coaching. We provided numerous educational opportunities and trainings to our moms throughout dealing with sexual health, financial literacy, mental health support. Many of our moms excitedly have joined and presented at conferences with us about the success of this project and how it benefited them and their families. Next slide. So this is a breakdown of our participants. As you can see, when you look at this for spas, I went and made my own notes. So for LA City, it would be spa 2, spa 4, spa 5, spa 6, and near spa 7 somewhat, and near spa 8. And those are the participants that we enrolled, as well as the race, spa, and abundance coaching. And even though they may have declined coaching initially, they still have the opportunity to return and ask for an opt-in to coaching. So we never say no, you can't come back or participate. They are also connected to our various programs like Black Infant Health, the AIM Doula program, and any of the fatherhood program with expecting fathers, as well as Black Daddy Dialogue, and invited to every event that we host throughout the county. Next slide. Passing it back to Dr. Franklin.
Thank you. So
Close
it,
us out.
it could sound like it's like this a collection of programs that are really important and beautiful. The underlying each of them is an understanding of some of the evidence base that shows that's either demonstrated or promising as it relates to mitigating birth disparity or poor birth outcomes. And I'll just name what those things are. Which one we didn't cover very directly, which is a group prenatal, which is a group environment in which there is a support group, but also provider does checkups during that group time. Our Charles Drew Black Maternal Health Center of Excellence is a partner that we fund to provide group prenatal. Doulas are definitely an emerging evidence practice in terms of mitigating stress, improving the person's satisfaction with pregnancy, increasing uptake and duration of breastfeeding, which we know is helpful for both mom, parent, and baby. Engaged fathers, culturally congruent care providers who provide affirming support, are respectful, and are aligned culturally or understand or have that vibe is something that folks have shared in terms of impact. Definitely mental health support. Our Black Infant Health Program, which is a group program, focuses on that. And then addressing the social determinants of health. Namely, guaranteed income is one of the interventions that there is evidence that it prevents premature birth, maternal mortality, and infant mortality, regardless of race, and that's the grounding for that. So there are things that we know have an impact. You know, our goal really is to wrap those things together for Black individuals in a way that centers them culturally, that's respectful, that's aligned with them, and is able to scale in a county of our size, where the Black population isn't necessarily in one place in our county or even in one neighborhood. So I wanted to call that out. Like when you hear the different programs, it really is us bringing that together. Some other efforts of note is a village fund, which we have in partnership with the LA Partnership for Early Childhood Investment, Southern California grant makers. And those are mini grants that are designed by and determined by our community partners and really designed for organizations across the county who are doing
Individuals.
individuals, thank you, and individuals across the county who are doing work that could address Black infant and maternal mortality from an innovation frame, and typically are organizations that may not receive large funding from public entities or large philanthropic organizations. To date, we funded over 30 community-based organizations to deliver
Individuals.
and individuals.
Small
Thank you.
businesses.
I keep forgetting those small businesses too,
Mhm.
which is great. Our AIM communications was actually one of the first things outside of the community action team that we implemented, and we really created a landing place where it wasn't centered on public health or First 5 LA or Department of Health Services, but really owned by the community and place that served as a landing place for our collective efforts. And it was a website, social media channels, all of our messaging designed in partnership with community and people with lived experience who hands down determined that though we needed to continue to advocate and fight for social justice, that the end goal was to talk about abundance and joy, and that having a healthy and joyous birth is possible for Black folks. That came out of hearing from community members that they were fearful of becoming pregnant because they were fearful of either dying in childbirth or losing their childhood, and we knew that that was not the end goal. Was not fear; it really was to bring joy and abundance, and that you can check it out at blackinfantsandfamilies.org. Black Maternal Health Week, LA County was the first large county to pass a motion recognizing Black Maternal Health Week. Thankful to Black Women for Wellness who really brought forth Black Maternal Health Week as a celebration
Right.
to our county and to the initiative, and it serves as a great grounding place for events, awareness building, connection building. At some point, we'll have over 25 events that week across the county. And then the Los Angeles County DPH Community Health Equity Improvement Plan. That plan is among one of the things that's required by every public health department is to have a community health improvement plan. LA County has endeavored that among the strategies in that plan is addressing birth disparity, which is a huge move. It gives us a grounding for the work that we do, for the funding and partnership with managed care organizations, managed care providers like LA Care, HealthNet, Blue Cross, Kaiser, Molina, and others are required to partner with public health departments on their community health improvement plan. And because ours focuses as one of the 4 areas on birth equity, we have endeavored on a partnership to address Black birth disparity in the county in partnership with all of the managed care providers in LA County. Internally, we call it Project 8000. The goal is to touch the 8,000 births that take place, Black births that take place in our county, with these affirming supports that are either evidence-based or evidence-informed, with the goal of starting with in SPAs 1 and 6 specifically,
Right.
which are high impact areas. And so you'll be hearing more about Project 8000 because we're finalizing, the contracts are being finalized now. We'll start getting to work to partner with community-based organizations and with our fellow colleagues on delivering that.
The other I would say too is we have excitedly we always participate thanks to Dr. Franklin, who was our first comms manager prior to becoming the director, was our one of our community action teams started the breast and chest feeding campaign, which supports encouraging businesses to put up tabletops as well as a window sticky decal that says breast and chest feeding welcome here. So it allows women to feel comfortable being able to feed their babies without, some guilt or shame because they're in the public space or for that place to offer space. And so in this last iteration of the Taste of Soul, we actually asked them if they would give us the space and we had our own tent to where the moms that were out there with their children or families could come and sit in the tent. We had chairs for them, we had water, we had breast pumps and resources that they could take away, not to share, but that they could take away, and then other information and resources. And they allowed us to do that. And this is a tent that we established, that the community came together and established the entire campaign. So this is like our third iteration of advancing that campaign, and we take that tent wherever. So if someone is hosting an event, a large community public event, we can bring that out, and families will have that separate private space to be able to feed their children and nurse as they choose or pump if they so desire. And so we're excited about this work. Like Dr. Franklin said, we're found on Facebook, Instagram, even X under Black Infants and Families Los Angeles. So any questions? Thank you for allowing us to be here. I see you, Ms. Shamika, with your first some hands on.
So first, I just want to thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. I was really excited and wanted this presentation for quite some time.
Yes.
As a follow-up
Great.
to a presentation, I want to say we had maybe a year ago or so with Dr. Kimberly Gregory, and I'm drawing a blank of the other person that presented with her. And I know you all partnered quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I thought it was important as a follow-up to that to
Thank you
actually
for your
give
patience.
more more information. And so I will let others ask questions. I have some, but I will let others start. So we'll start with Commissioner OC, and then I'll pass it over to Commissioner Montiel.
Thank you for the presentation. Really timely. It helps me connect some dots, the data, just reflecting on an experience of my mother.
Yeah.
Having a full-term pregnancy and having a stillbirth in elementary school. Having a funeral.
Yeah.
And her not coming home with the baby
Right.
in elementary. The data has really been helpful. She was a registered nurse, successful career, married, a home, resources, stillbirth.
Right.
I was drawn to the doula work recently, just was an epiphany. Sometimes we're drawn to passion work. I was a teen mother, 16 years old, but I had a family support network that was really strong. And I recognized that the young girls around me that were pregnant did not have that.
Right.
And so with being introduced to the doula program, I recognized that this is some support that I may be able to provide to folks that need it. And so I'm excited about that new journey. Thank you for your presentation. And I've been introduced to some of your work through my full-time work, some colleagues that are involved in AIM work. And so thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much. I agree with you. I similarly had that experience, being a teen mom, but with loads of family support. But I just have a colleague who's a grandmother who just lost her 5-month-old granddaughter. And we also have to find organizations that support. We also we did not share, we were recipients of the Robert Wood Johnson Health Foundation
Culture of Health
Culture of
Prize.
Health Prize. And so what we decided as we got $250,000, but of that 200, once you siphon off all the other fees, we decided to create a compassion response that is just about to be launched, so that those that present and apply with a loss through AIM, they'll get $3,700 to spend however they choose to address either that stillbirth or, perinatal, if there's an infant loss post birth, and then if there's a maternal loss. But our goal is to prevent that. But we are offering support, and we've had other organizations that did the same, provided funds and resources like CDU and California Black Women's Health Project. Commissioner Mandel?
Yeah. So as an obstetrician and someone who's been hanging out in labor and delivery units for 47 years, I applaud you for your efforts and for your team's efforts to lower the racial uh, uh, differences. In fact, for all women, so nobody dies in labor or postpartum. Um, California actually does a much better job than many other states, despite the fact that our Medi-Cal or Medicaid nationwide payment for pregnancy services is in lower quartile in the country. And unfortunately, for a whole collection of socioeconomic reasons, in the state of California, 67% of Black women have Medi-Cal. So the poor payment to hospitals or to providers actually has a major impact because Medi-Cal has been demonstrated to cause, and not just Medi-Cal, but Medicaid in other states, to have more maternal mortality and also the thing right before mortality, severe maternal morbidity or SMM.
Right.
The racial difference for SMM in the state of California is 1.3 times more for African American women than it would be for non-Hispanic Caucasian white women, which is significant, but nowhere near what other states have. So we're doing a better job with it. Um, the only way to lower mortality is to really impact SMM. So all programs should really be lowering that. Do you have any data for the county that looks at BMI, basically weight of women, economics, whether they're on Medi-Cal versus private payer, as well as hypertension, because unfortunately more African American women have high blood pressure than other racial groups.
Right.
If you separate those out, do you still see a racial difference, at least in the state of California or in Los Angeles County? Because I've looked for that data, I've never found it. You might have it, but not publish it.
No, I wouldn't say that we have. I would say it's interesting that you said that because I've been looking for and found an OB/GYN and an RN to address during this month diabetes awareness. So our meeting on the 20th is to address hypertension, gestational diabetes, and then also hypertension and discuss prematurity awareness. But having that data, no, we have not. We focused a lot of our efforts also on trying to educate around perinatal nutrition, also trying to educate on how to reduce stressors. But then we also look at, racial disparities as it relates to the impact of stress on Black bodies. And so that is what we've had to look at overall when we talk about AIM is how those stressors turn out the weathering process, how that ends up looking for Black folks, how food insecurity, housing insecurity, how Black women are single families, and women pay higher in rent. So we're looking at the whole systemic issue and then how do we address that. But having that specific data, no, I would ask probably if you could point me, but
It's budding, I would
yeah.
say. There is, because we're looking at how can we obtain it now that the California Department of Public Health's maternal child and adolescent health dashboard has become more and more robust.
Yeah.
We're looking at how can we request the data. We're able to see causes of death by looking at the codes, and we're working with them to. I say it's to do this with it so that we can understand what does it mean for LA County and dissect it by the areas that we care about, which are by SPAs, Missouri District, City Council District. There's a project that's coming from the Department of Public Health at the state to look at BMI, diabetes in partnership with some of the counties. So it's definitely budding. We're all thinking about the same thing, which is what if we approach morbidity from a different frame, including enabling women, individuals who are pregnant, to understand how important is to monitor their blood pressure. Even with that, we also need to address how they treated when they present with symptoms and it being taken seriously so that they see the individual and not, okay, go home and we'll keep an eye on it, but actually respond in the moment. I'd have to look at the two maternal deaths from 2023 where
Right.
that was a factor.
The other portion of that, right, that's what they listed, but then the husband said, no, that's not. And she was never informed. So though Bridget, for example, Mrs. Cromer was overweight, there was never any information from the provider that they were high risk at all. And so this was the last pregnancy, and she was supposed to have her tubes tied. And so many things led up to that. But what I wanted to say was that Dr. Franklin is absolutely correct. What happened though out of this work that we've been doing in AIM was we were able to create a Centering Black Mothers report with the state. So that was a number of Black led women leaders around the state that came together with UCSF under the umbrella of Black Women for Wellness because the state had not provided data in over 2 decades. I think it was like longer than that. It was almost 25 years that we didn't have the accurate data that we needed to be able to address and respond to this. It also created other smaller work groups that actually began to look at how each maternal death and then look at what were some of the causes or what were some of the issues prior to and start addressing from that angle. So we have a lot of colleagues that sit on some of those work groups to start to address that conversation. So the state, actually CDPH, is really working to create other work groups to really address birth inequities and around pregnancy and birthing. And then we also talk preconception because in preconception counseling, we can have these conversations and interconception counseling. Rather than when folks show up, they feel kind of beat down. A lot of women have talked to us and said, well, I felt really mistreated when I came in. Like, I know what size I am, but what can I do in this moment? How can I be educated? We ask oftentimes, even as doulas, were you referred to a nutritionist? And if a physician is not referring someone to a nutritionist, or they don't have those resources, or have the nurse work with them, then will we improve the outcome or will we stay the same? So some of those things we start to ask, and then we start to look at, well, that's a data piece that we could really do better by looking at and sharing and then creating the work or support to families to address that. Because in our nation, we know obesity is a major problem.
So we know that there's 8,000 babies born to Black women in LA County. That's a manageable number to do some
It's
a deep
completely
dive
manageable.
to separate the other variables because maybe it'd be more efficient for us to spend more money on having those women who are obese lose some weight before they got pregnant,
Right.
and that would lower the morbidity and the mortality as an intervention that would really save lives and,
Right.
and decrease morbidity. To my knowledge, doulas have been demonstrated to lower the risk of C-section, but they've never been ever been shown to lower the risk of SMM or mortality.
Yeah.
And so it'd be interesting to see if you have a cohort that you're looking at to see if there's any other data to show an SMM benefit. Because if not, to me, it seems like as much as I love doulas and work with doulas and advocate for doulas, that it would be a wiser use of the city and state's money, county's money, to put it into something that's going to have an impact on lowering morbidity and mortality. The last thing about the SPA data, which I think is really interesting, we, this commission, have been railing against the SPA system for about 10 years. I'm not against the data coming out of the SPA system, but there's no accountability because the city council, there are districts that are in 2 different SPAs and vice versa. And even the county supervisors, there's 5 of them currently, and there's 9 SPAs. So they don't even have 2 SPAs for each. And so there is a lack of accountability, and I would advocate that you go back to your higher ups and say that they, in today's day and age with computer technology and algorithms, they can keep their SPAs, but look at city council districts, look at congressional districts, look at state assembly and state senate districts, and let our elected officials, including county supervisors, have data specific just for their districts. And then the last
See,
thing,
Dr. Franklin is taking a
Oh,
note.
I'm taking notes.
yeah, and the last thing is just to tease you a little tiny bit, but also say on your third page, you use the term birthing people. Yeah, on your third page, when you talk about your program
Mm-hmm.
under who we serve,
Mm-hmm.
what's birthing people?
Well, so some folks don't want to be identified as a woman. So our women are mothers. So they use the term people or person.
Well,
So
I understand what some people don't want, but the fact of the matter, isn't it true that once an individual who's non-gendered or is gender fluid becomes pregnant,
Mhm.
they are a mom or a mother, even if afterwards they have a different gender during the 9 months of pregnancy, they're a mom.
You know what, Dr. Mandel, Commissioner Mandel, it is hard for us to get through that particular argument. So what we do to allow to be inclusive. So that is our inclusive language that has been asked often is that we include people or person. I have fought to make sure we don't take out women or mother. And so some folks want to take that off and just add people or person. And I said, no, let's do a slash, let's do an add-on. To me, that's inclusive language. So
I
that's
see.
been the
Our focus
challenge.
is on people and babies living and thriving. And so, however they I call themselves or name themselves, we honor that to prevent a barrier to someone living and
Mhm.
thriving. That is our focus. Now, the debate over mother, I've been in those conversations with individuals who do not identify as any particular gender, and similar to using, other terms, there's rarely a consensus around it. So it is person specific. Our focus is
Well,
however you frame yourself, it is welcome. What we care about is stopping the death and dying of Black folks at inequitable rates. And that really is our focus. And then the language that we use and all of our materials, that is language that the Department of Public Health has adopted. Melissa Franklin is Director of Maternal Child and Adolescent Health and employee of LA County Department of Public Health. And to honor, how our county determines how we reference folks.
yeah, my concern is not only that, but also chest feeding. I'm a man, but I have breasts. Anatomically, there's breasts. If you
Right.
take pathology, there are breasts.
Mhm.
Men get breast cancer.
Right.
That unfortunately, some of the verbiage that's
Mhm.
used from wherever it comes down and into your reports hurt us in our greater goal because the current federal administration responds to that
Right.
in ways that I fear will destroy and cut the funds for your wonderful programs that you just presented on. And I would caution that we be cautious in kicking the beast.
Yeah,
So,
we are at work on that too. To really do our best to like hold the line, to not be able to go backwards. And so we try to really just support all families as how they identify. And that sometimes can be the challenge. Do you continue in this vein? Do you water it down? But no matter where we're at, we still look at the data of who's dying, who's thriving, who's surviving, and trying to make it so that all have a safe space and equitable birthing opportunity. And so
But
yeah,
well,
I do value what you're sharing and take that into consideration and we'll take it back. Because we do hear it on both sides. Believe you me, and so we try to just like center ourselves to be as inclusive and we know currently what the administration is pushing. Um, so we just gotta just say
I, I,
where do we
I
sit?
applaud you for what you do, but
Thank
to keep on doing it, most of the money from the County of Los Angeles Public Health comes from Washington.
you.
It doesn't come from the city of Los
Yeah.
Angeles, and that we should be cautious in trying to do things for something that really has no impact on those 8,000 individuals that you and I want to fight for.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you so much.
So thank you. And I just want to say this.
Yes.
Yes, and
Hmm.
if we are trying to move equity, we cannot work around language.
Hmm.
And so I think that's also important
Yeah.
um, to take away with. So have your conversations, and let's not forget the purpose and the why behind what you're doing.
Hmm.
Yes, we are under administration that is trying to claw back progress, but that does not mean we claw back how we talk about, how we affirm people and how they identify themselves,
Hmm.
and our purpose or your purpose in the work that you do. I think that is important. And so I also want to encourage that because that is important. And the more that we dumb down or whitewash that information, it does not help move the needle. So
Right.
I also want to offer that.
Thank
So
you.
last comment to Commissioner Shannon, and then I want to be respectful to Mr. Donlin, who has been here patiently.
And they
You
were
know, 3 presentations are a lot. So I
here.
just want to also acknowledge him,
Thank
Commissioner Shannon, and
Thank
then
you.
I want to thank you so much for this program and for this excellent presentation. I also think people should be called what they want to be called, especially when they're pregnant. So you can take that back as well. And I just wanted to ask if you have a lot of people who are unhoused in your program and how you kind of work around, or not really work around, but how you address either getting them into like motels or a
Yes.
place that's a more healthy environment. I work with the unhoused community, and I've had clients who have been pregnant, one of which was turned away from a shelter and ended up giving birth in a motel. And so, I'm just very concerned about people who are on the street
It is our
and also
biggest
pregnant.
challenge.
Yeah. I was gonna say it is. I'll start and let Dr. Franklin wrap us up. Um, for the 410 women, about 30% of them are either unhoused or housing insecure. That's just an Abundant Birth Project. We have had that challenge. The challenge is for us in this city and county to really look at what affordable housing really is and means. Um, uh, LA is just unaffordable by far and large, and most folks are spending over 50% of their income on housing, and that's a bit ridiculous. Now, I'm a realtor as well, so I have understanding about housing, but at the same time, I want to be able to make sure that if somebody has an issue, whether they lose a job, whether they just can't, they now have the rent has been increased by over 10% or whatever that is, that they can safely stay somewhere. And so we're looking at additional resources. We have some organizations that offer housing, but they only sometimes offer to a point. So a lot of it is temporary and not permanent. I personally dealt with someone that also had multiple issues. She was unhoused and she had mental health issues, and was a young adult having her baby here from another state. And so worked very hard and tirelessly to get her into housing. Actually took her to housing, and she went through about 5 organizations in a short span of time until she got kicked out, left in LA, and then came back. And now she is permanently housed and getting more support and services, and had a beautiful baby boy here. What we have done, I'll wrap with this, is we have created a housing workforce or task, I would say work group task force to address the issue of housing. So we're trying to bring folks together to address the issue of housing for pregnant and parenting folks in our city and in our county. So more to come on that. I will definitely share the information to invite all who are able to participate and join.
I would add that it is our biggest challenge that across the board, whether it be in abundant birth, which is about 30% of participants, doula program, which at some points in times up to 25% of participants, our Black Infant Health Program, which last I checked in, is about 15% of the participants, and then across all of our programs, including our home visiting programs, nurse family partnership, anywhere between 20-25%. pregnant or newly parenting participants unhoused. And it's one of those things where if I could ask for anything other than funding, it's just for a streamlined prioritization of
Okay.
pregnant
Mhm.
individuals who are unhoused, and that is the most difficult thing. What we do is what Adra just shared: marshal resources, make our connections, reach out, help overcome barriers, connect them to our Medi-Cal enrollee folks to see if there's help there. But it is by just like the village trying to activate, and there being a need for a streamlined prioritization of pregnant folks. And the story that you shared is unfortunately not an unusual one or not one that we haven't been hearing from our partners or from among our participants. So thank you for caring about that. It's deeply disturbing and heartbreaking.
Thank you. And we're working with the CEO's office around these projects, so we'll see more to come around housing and supportive services. But we'll keep you informed.
Great, thank you
Thank
again.
you.
And if you are able to get us any data that overlaps with the um, council districts, that would also be helpful. We do a report, and so we can share that information. And I think when we are able to drill down to that level, it actually helps even spread the awareness and information.
Yeah, we're working on a census tract analysis that'll enable us to kind of group things and by neighborhood, city, because we've gotten, we have interest in that to the point that you're saying in terms of municipalities really connecting to addressing the crisis. So it's timely, and looking forward to sharing that, coming back and sharing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All right, and
you.
we'll talk soon. So we have some commission business, and then so you all are free. You don't need to see. You don't have to stick around for the commission business. But thank you. We
Yeah.
will for our. I'm sorry. Oh no. Were you gonna say something? I'm sorry. What?
We have one more presentation.
No, I was about to share. So our last presenter needed to leave, so we will follow up to see about getting them back to present.
And if he can go first next time, that would be good.
Yeah.
So, in respect to the next presenter, I had held back. But I just wanted to point out to our two presenters. Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Sure.
Excuse me.
Dr. Franklin?
Yeah, there's a health atlas that you can find on the Health Commission website. It was created. I think it's been updated, so the health atlas will show you in the city of LA where the different disparities are. And by looking at that, maybe you can sort of identify easier where there's that overlap. And as Dr. Mandel was saying, I mean, you're looking at reducing the mortality, but there might be pre-factors before that. And the health atlas could give an indication. And the health atlas basically shows you the general inequity in access to resources for people to be healthy in the city of LA. And so if you see that overlap, then, we can make that correlation and work on, the different aspects, not just of how to bring the total down.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, also, we're going to be looking at those actually in the partner guidance.
If you, sorry, if you can speak then to the microphone.
Oh, I was going to say, so I'm also in school, so I'm a Bloomberg Fellow, and I'm going to be focusing on domestic violence and intimate partner violence for pregnant and parenting women. So, we'll be looking to the city to look at data around that, looking with the county for emergency, access of services for women who are pregnant and parenting. And so we do realize there's such a huge overlap when it comes to perinatal health. And so we try our best to do it all. But when we started this, we had no money. There was no money assigned to it. There were no staff assigned to it. And so the expansion that you see over a 7-year period is from us starting and talking about like this is what has happened to the descendants of slaves here in America for over 400 years. It will not be resolved in 5 years, 10 years, most likely 20 years. But as we're doing this, we're looking for resolution for all and to be supportive of all, but really to also really impact those that really are suffering and losing children and families and moms. You know, sadly, when we went to New Orleans, I got to see Anaya, whose mom, April, died in January, who's now 2 years old, thriving in another state. But she'll never meet her mother. But that was preventable, as well as some of the other cases. But then when they're not preventable, I mean, just the education and resources, people know where they can access clinic services, where there's food, all those things are really imperative to the work that we're able to do. So thank you for that. We'll definitely look into that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to keep you longer.
Oh,
No,
no, that's good. Thank
we're
you.
off tomorrow.
I think, again, thanks to veterans for their service. I think many folks will be off tomorrow. So if you all commissioners may have noticed on the agenda, we were going to discuss or bring back the discussion around President Emeritus. But we were asked to have that removed from the agenda. And even though the city attorney normally is not here, I did ask if we can get some information about why it was removed, so we can make some other decisions or figure out next steps.
Thank you all for having me. This is Nicole Gajus. I'm standing in for Barack Vaughn. I was able to speak with him. The issue, it appears that it may require council action to be able to make that change based on his research. So I think he's just asking for a little bit more time to get to the bottom to give you options for a path forward. But that was what he was able to communicate to
For
me.
the bylaw change,
Yes.
but not for our verbiage,
I'm sorry, what was it?
not for the terms they call each other.
So yes, for the terms, because it's not a city recognized position, that it would require an ordinance change that would be approved by council. But like I said, I'm just a messenger tonight. But he's asking for a little more time to look into that. There are certain commissions that require a bylaw change from council, and others that can do it themselves. And so he seems to believe that it's this council needs city council's approval to change the bylaws.
So could the term be used even without changing the bylaws? Because that was also part of the discussion, was if did the bylaws actually have to be changed?
All he said was that it's not a city recognized position right now.
Okay.
So
Yes.
just historically, when this commission was first created, and President Shannon at the time and I were on the commission. I think we're the only two that have been on the entire time. We were educated about the ordinance and told that we can change, this body was individually functioning, can change its bylaws without having approval from the city council. That's historical. That it could have been a different city attorney who was presenting to us or teaching or educating us, but we were being educated on our first meeting on the Brown Act and our bylaws and how to create our bylaws, because we actually created the bylaws.
That's right.
We meaning the commission, not just President Emeritus Shannon and myself, but those of us that have been here for 11 years, we created the bylaws ourselves, and that did not go to the city council for approval. We created it, we voted upon it, and it was put into print.
I will have to just do the research on that. But yes, if you can give us some more time to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I know that is true of other councils and commissions, so I will definitely take that back.
And not to quote law, but that's called precedent.
Understood.
Every position that we have here at this commission was actually created by the commission, including the first and second vice chairs, right? Because we originally were just going to have a chair and a vice chair, but we created a first vice chair and a second vice chair, all of which was created by this commission, not through council action. my organization actually created the ordinance that was voted on. And so I can tell you that the ordinance actually does not specify the individual titles of leadership here. That was all created by us, including when we meet, how we meet, all of that. So you could go back, I'm sure that was recorded, so you could go back to the first meeting maybe and listen to that. It's all there.
Definitely, it's always good to have that historical records for us to go back to, because sometimes we get questions and you're like, I'm not sure what happened in 1978. Let me find out. Not that this is when this was created, but those questions
What,
do come up from time to time.
2014, I think.
2014.
I think we met in 2014.
Okay.
Maybe at late 2014, I think.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
So, yeah, it's the citizens created a initiative, the committee, in lieu of incorporating the Department of Health, which they thought that would not be possible because it was going to take 10 years and too much money, right? And so I think that was the reason why when initially Mayor Bass put all the commissions on the cutting block for budget reasons,
Right.
this one could not be touched
Got it.
by her. Okay. So it's different as they're explaining.
Got it. Okay, we will definitely take a look at it and communicate with the staff and let you all know.
Great, thank you. Besides that, I think we have kind of a queue of upcoming, I think, presentations for, I guess, the remaining meetings for the year. Monica, were you going to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to give some updates on this year's report. So the research associates have divided and started our first draft for this new report, and just some important updates that I wanted to let you guys know about. We are creating a new section, a fifth section that is dedicated to environmentalism, policy, healthy living, and so we are moving some subtopics from healthy living into that section, and one of the new research associates, Sasha, she's in charge of that section. And so hopefully by tomorrow, I will be able to send out an updated table of contents, so that way you guys can take a look at it, recommend any new subtopics or topics for each section that we did not consider. And we should have our first draft ready for next Saturday.
I would just say make sure the Olympics is included as a separate chapter.
Yeah, it's the fourth section as of right now, and we intend on keeping it that way. Yes.
I do, if I'm recognized, I do want to make sure that Joe Donlin has time to give his presentation on ULA, because I felt, me personally, as a commissioner here, that we had a very skewed presentation from UCLA, and I want our folks to hear the other side of that. I know that a lot of times we have presentations here, makes it into the report, and it may not be something that this commission agrees with. And so I do want to make sure that he has time to give his presentation, and that that's also reflected in the report.
Yeah, I will definitely reach out to see what month works best for him, because I know that our presentation for next month, our first presenter requested to be first and over Zoom due to accessibility and time constraints. So I'll check in with Rita and with our presenter to see which month would be best fit for him. Yeah. And then I also had one more request on Claire's behalf. She was asking or wanted to know if any of the commissioners had any recommendations as to who to reach out to about speakers for the upcoming Olympics, because so far we haven't been that successful.
So I've been reaching out to the different, they have so much deliverables by the end of the year that they've asked to contact them next year.
Okay.
So one of the working groups is on sustainability, which is the theme for the Olympics, which really integrates well with the Plan for Healthy LA. They said they can't this year. Reached out to their medical team. They only have actually, I got a Zoom meeting with them and Dr. Anne Remoyne because she made a great presentation about how to prepare for the Olympics.
Mhm.
So we met via Zoom. I requested if they could present, and they say they can't this year. So I'm going to reach out to them again next year,
Okay.
and we'll try to time it in. But also, getting back to your suggestion of making the environmental justice policy a separate section, it all comes from the Department of City Planning. So actually, that was SB 1000 helped the city planning department to kick into action parts of the plan for a healthy LA. So it's really integrated.
Mhm.
And so I think it's, if we separate it, they might not see the integration. Somehow, if we can discuss how to, keep it still under the the planning department's plan and how SB 1000 forced them to do something, which is, bringing greater equity to our disadvantaged communities,
Mhm.
I think it would highlight better what we're trying to do as a commission. And now the rebuttal.
Just as a question for the city attorney and for the city clerk, um, during COVID, we were able to get world leading experts to come by Zoom to present us because we were all in a living room or whatever. Now that we're here, do we have limitations on who we invite? I mean, ideally, we'd love to have wonderful people like this come here, but given the fact that there are some experts in DC, New York, Boston, London, who would be willing to present. Do we have any limitations, or can we, as a commission and the research associates, find world leading experts to present on Zoom?
Do you want me to handle that?
Sure, the legal aspect of it.
Sure. Legally, yes, you can have presenters appear remotely as long as the technological ability for people to hear on the recording, and if there's any public comment, engage with the speaker. So if there are people here physically giving public comment, that the speakers could hear it and be a part of that. But there's no legal bar to having the presenter be remote.
And then for us in the city clerk, the issue was the cost for staff, because that's ITA had to do had to assist with that process. But my understanding, and Jose, I don't know if you're prepared to answer this, but my understanding is that our own system staff from the city clerk's office is now able to conduct those meetings via Zoom, those remote meetings. And Jose, I don't know if you can, do you have any additional information about that, whether I'm correct or not?
Yeah, in terms of systems for city clerk, we can. The only thing is that if we have to share something, it has to be through video. We have to confirm with ITA because that it's conduct and involve another department in order to get involved with the video itself to to the to the presentation.
So if it's non-video, just slides that were emailed earlier, that's fine.
That is correct. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, because doing a video would entail us having to hire ITA to conduct it, which is where we were told we don't have the funds to do that.
We just needed to know our limitations.
Okay, so for clarification, December, we have one presenter by Zoom and he wants to go first. Is that what you said?
My understanding, Monica, is this the presenter that Dr. Mandel, you had scheduled prior working with Monica? I'm trying to remember the name of the presenter.
Yes, it was. I'm looking for it right.
Because the last email that I saw was that the person preferred to present in January.
Yes, you are right. You're right. It was in. He asked to move it to January. You are so right.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, I will reach out to Mr. Donlin and reschedule him for December, letting him know he can go first. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome.
And can I also Connect the Research Associates to invite the chair for the Congress of Neighborhood Councils, which happened in September. And they get the information out to all the neighborhood councils. And I really want what we're discussing about prevention, emergency management, everything to go more citywide. And I think this is the easiest way. We've been trying to go through the council office, but I think our report just sit in their office. But if we can get parts of it to the neighborhood councils, and if there's people interested, then maybe we can get some traction. So I'll put you in contact with the chair.
Sounds good.
All right, well then if there are no other comments or questions for discussion, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm glad to see you walking.